Hello, everybody. Welcome back. It's another episode of the RomaPress podcast. We hope you are doing well as always. Thank you to all of our wonderful patrons. You can go to patreon.com/RomaPress to join early access to episodes, extra episodes, a bunch of other things as well. Again, patreon.com/RomaPress. And finally, a thank you to all of you who have subscribed to our YouTube channel. If you could support us, that would also be greatly appreciated. If you could go to youtube.com/at ISRomaPress. You can obviously get the video version of the podcast. See Andy going on twice per week because he's a glutton for punishment doing live streams. Since there's no midweek fixture, you really have to hate yourself to want to do a live stream this week. But his level of commitment is that high. He is willing to go on and overcome the depths of depravity to which we've been treated to and make himself available for a full hour, and you can interact with him. Again, youtube.com/at ISRoma Press. We are hovering at almost 1,000 subscribers, and we've had our YouTube for like 2 months. So thank you all so much. The support it's still overwhelming. It's hard to explain or put into words, but we are grateful and we are very appreciative for all the support everybody has shown to us. So thank you. Uh, what are we even supposed to talk about? It's midweek.
Well, I
Roma, they're
mean,
facing
you got
Lecce.
a number of situations leading up to Lecce. You got the Smalling, very weird situation with him and his injury and his status for the next few weeks after this sort of, it seemed like this short-lived return to group training, and then after, like, I think it was like 2 days, he just disappeared, and apparently they sent him to London to get checked
Yes.
up by a doctor. And then you got Paulo Dybala, Renato Sanchez back with the squad, looking to be back with the team against Lecce. So
Do you
that's part
remember the
the
last
good
time
news.
Renato Sanchez played?
The Renato
Because I
Sanchez
had
has
to.
played 98 minutes this season. The last time he played against Sheriff Tiraspol over a month ago, like a month
Right,
and a
and
half.
if and what is kind of funny is because do you remember the sequence of events that took place for him where Roma they beat Empoli 7-0.
Yeah, yeah, he
He
has four. He
scores.
plays well. He scores, but he plays 45 minutes. So that then gives us the illusion that this guy, can go on a nice run by just doing that, by playing the bare minimum,
Yes.
one half per game. Beautiful. What Roma, I think, couldn't foresee was the fragility of this guy, not only physical but mental, because as soon as they put him on the pitch for another 45 minutes, 3 days later against Sheriff, less than 30 minutes into the match, he goes down and is out for a month and a half. So I think, like, this time around, the Roma will handle the situation differently, because you got to learn your lesson from these episodes, because these players. I mean, we have so many injuries, and so many of them are re-aggravated injuries. Like Pellegrini, it's an injury he suffers basically from the same two injuries for since 2 years. First it was the
Yes.
foot, now it's the, I think it's the calf or
The
whatever. So
calf. Yes.
always the same stuff over and over again. Um, and then we got Spinazzola. We can talk about Spinazzola because Spinazzola once again out. There's rumors about him potentially leaving Roma in January. Well, I mean, people are shocked, but the guy is constantly injured, hasn't had a decent performance in God knows how long, and has only like 8 months left on his contract with Roma. So the signs of him staying beyond this seasons are not there, and this is a player that if even if a small tiny sum came in as in the form of an offer in January, I'm not even thinking about it. I'm just packing his suitcase. I'm taking my big old boots and I'm kicking him in the ass out of Trigoria on the sidewalk, hoping that he can catch the first cab to the airport and then from there on to Saudi Arabia, because like there has I mean, there has to be a moment where you go, enough is enough with these players, with some of the injuries, because someone like Spinazzola, a man who really has failed to show anything in 2 years.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, since that injury, man, it seems like
Since
that
that
was
injury,
really
he's been impossible to find on the pitch, and when he's been on
yes.
the pitch, most of the time he's been detrimental. The only reason why he's been playing is because Zaleski was even more detrimental. So uh, I just can't, like. So we can talk about a number of these situations, which are odd because they're all correlated by the same phenomenon of Roma constantly having to deal with injuries, and most of the players in questions are players that have an extensive injury record. I mean, someone like Smalling. Smalling last year was phenomenal. He goes down only near the end of the season. He was available all season long, arguably your best defender. Everybody wanted him to renew his contract. The moment he renews his contract, he has once again the episode that he experienced in his second season. It seems like every time Smalling signs a new deal with the club, he's injured. Remember, he comes on loan, beautiful. He's always available. He's fantastic. He's a rock in Fonseca's shaky defense. The moment he signs a long-term contract with Roma, remember the Friedkins came on and they had Joe Pesci work it out between the Serie A officials in order to sign Chris Smalling before the transfer
Yes.
deadline. And Joe Pesci comes in, he sorts the thing out, and and the moment Smalling signs that long-term contract that binds his stay on a permanent deal with Roma, he's out. He's out, and he's out for a few months. Now he was a free agent. He signs with Roma 2 additional years. Boom. We see him 3 times. All 3 times he delivers very underwhelming performances. Now he's been out for over a month, for over 2 months, and you have no idea when he's coming back. So arguably, you're talking about Smalling, you're talking about Spinazzola, Dybala, Sanchez. That's already 4 players that are in your starting lineup on any day of the week. Lorenzo Pellegrini, that's 5 players, 5 starters. So that's what we can talk about. Roma, the way they're gonna go out there and play against the Lecce, I think, comes in secondary to the whole situation that is unraveling before our eyes. Because if you're Jose Mourinho, or if you're Thiago Pinto, or if you're just the team, how do you feel about Paulo Dybala and Renato Sanchez being back in training? Like, do they offer you any guarantees for these next 3 games? Like somebody like Paulo Dybala, do you really think that? I mean, I'm not even, but one could doubt: is he gonna play 150% super hard in the next 3 games that are leading up to the next international break? He's already missed out on Argentina's last games uh, for a second time in a row. So, do you really think he's gonna risk re-aggravating the last injury in these next 3 games that are gonna be against Lecce, against Slavia Praga, and then the more difficult one, the Derby? That's the thing. Is
Yeah.
once again, Roma are confronted with so many question marks at the worst of times, I think.
Well, you need to be careful with this criticism of Smalling. Do you remember? I'm sure. Well, maybe you don't. When his lawyer, when she contacted me when we were on one of the podcasts we were doing, I mentioned, and then I wrote something about how he was working with another agent, an Italian one, when he was trying to find a deal to remain. This was when he was on loan. In fact, I looked the other day. I still have the message. When they were working with Roma, Manchester United, to find a deal to keep him there permanently, she, one of the lawyers at his agency, she contacted me and said I was publishing false information that he is still our client. He is not working with other agents. And then, of course, I published a photo of him sitting next to an Italian agent. because
He
just because
wasn't with
somebody has
James Featherstone,
no,
isn't
he still is, but as we
okay?
know, it's the same thing with every single footballer. One agent can't be in 20
No,
places
of
at
course,
once.
yeah. You need
So they
intermediaries.
work
You
with
need. I mean,
yes, so they work with intermediaries,
sure,
and of course,
sure.
they took great offense to that.
No, I
Great
think I
offense.
remember. I think I remember.
Yes, they took great offense to that, and they wanted the clarification. Naturally, I don't think I put one out, but anyway, it's we just had to tread carefully because the last thing I want is an email coming from London saying that we are
And we don't
discussing
want to. We don't want to end
falsehoods.
up like Fabrizio Corona. We don't want to.
Yeah, well, right. So
There's
I
another story of Fabrizio Corona accusing Lorenzo Pellegrini of stalking 5 prostitutes, and then it
yeah,
turns out that he was basing those accusations on bots and their comments under Lorenzo Pellegrini's Instagram profile. You don't know this, right? You've not heard about this because
no,
you're
that I
too
did
busy
hear
with
about.
your 16 children. But 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 Fabrizio Corona, no, because I know that you've heard that he accused Lorenzo Pellegrini of stalking an escort. Okay, that's
Yes,
one thing. Then he tried to give more details by saying now there is 5 women accusing them. Somebody like just a regular Joe went under Lorenzo Pellegrini's like last Instagram photos, and they saw these, those automated bot comments on Instagram,
yes,
like
yes.
are sent out by these anonymous accounts, maybe with like one first name, Sophie or Delilah or something,
We get them all the time at
yeah. Well,
RomaPress. If you
yes, we
look at
get them on Twitter, but I'm talking about those big chunky comments on Instagram where they tell you a whole story, like, "Hey, I need a kidney" or something like that. He based the accusations on those automated comments on Instagram that are there for everybody to see. Like that's the extent that this guy is willing to go to get some notoriety, some publicity. So hopefully we don't end up like him. I know that you love your family dearly, so I'm sure you wouldn't want to end up in some jail in the center of Milan, because that's the last time the Corona was in jail. That
well,
was
hey,
right in the city center of Milan.
well, when you live in Veneto for so long, uh, jail becomes a more
more
tolerable
more
prospect. But
pleasing, more
no, in all
pleasing
seriousness, as for Spinazzola, listen, this has been one of those things where if you don't know who his agent is, okay, it is the son of Marcello
prospect.
Lippi,
Yes.
the former Italian national team coach. The guy is again, he he searches his name and he looks for videos that mention him because he Google searches agente di Spinazzola all the time, and
Yeah.
he will actively seek out people who speak about him.
I
So I
remember
will
I think I have his number because you gave it to me one day. I was like leaving university. I was in Amsterdam. I was leaving my class, and you just like,
because he blocked me, but
yeah, he sent me a message. Was like, maybe he's gonna call you. I'm like, what?
well,
What?
he long story. We can talk about that another time. But anyway, he is not shy. He is one of those agents that enjoys his name being discussed right alongside. He's like I don't know, the poor man's Giuffredi, who
But
I
they
mean,
are all there like that. Like that's the rule. That's not the exception. Like these people, at the end, they want to vicariously live through the fame of their clients. At
yes,
the end of the day, that's what it's all about to them. Like, God bless, the rest in peace Mino Raiola, but the man had he had a propulsion to stardom through his clients. Like he was living the life because of how his clients lived the life. So that's the rule. And so with like exactly like that's when I say, when people ask me, well, what does Spinazzola's future look like? Well, I mean, uh, Lippi, when Spinazzola was doing well and was doing well at the Euro, he would be giving out 3 interviews a day
interviews.
saying that he's the next fullback at Real Madrid. The moment he gets
Yes,
injured, he starts to push the narrative that, well, Spinazzola now needs support from the club, and Roma would
right.
be wise to
Yes,
extend his deal and offer him a renewal, blah, 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 blah. The point is that this man will always, always tries to play his card. The situation with Spinazzola is pretty straightforward. He plays like shit and is injured like every
a
3 games
lot.
or
Yeah.
so. So there is no point in Roma have been handicapped for long enough by the lack of reassurances on the wing to even consider giving Spinazzola a new contract. So
Yeah, well,
it,
especially considering too what he earns. I mean, this is not a guy
no,
who is.
he's probably the most expensive player on the squad, like one of the most expensive players in terms of his overall cost. I mean, the figures there are crazy. You're paying a hell of a lot of money for somebody whose output is borderline embarrassing. So,
Yeah, he earns 3 million net.
yes, and the whole, yeah,
So he's
exactly.
costing
Yeah,
you.
10. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, 6 gross, and then we
Yeah.
talk about
Yeah.
the amortization of the transfer fee and so on and so forth.
It makes him one of the highest in the team. Yes. So
Yes, very
consider
expensive guy.
consider the output that this guy is offering in exchange. It's laughable, and that's been one of the reasons why Roma haven't have been their growth has been undercut. Now, so this is one situation that we can talk about, and we can look at, and we will have to look at, because otherwise, I mean, given Roma's luck, you're probably going to lose Spinazzola for free. Okay, who cares? Still would be nice to get a nice little sum from Saudi Arabia in January, like 5 million, 4 million. That's
Yeah, really anything for him. Yeah,
anything,
I agree.
anything. I'll take anything. But then a more serious situation is Chris Smalling, fresh off a
Yes.
renewal, 2 years, 34 years of age. And I don't want now people to say, well, I told you so. No, you didn't tell me anything. Last season, Smalling was spectacular, spectacular, immaculate. How many yellow cards did he receive all season long? I mean, you can count them probably on one hand.
Right, there
And
was
he
like 2
was
or 3 it seemed
impeccable,
like.
impeccable throughout all of the season. He was impeccable. Maybe save for one game here, one game there against Napoli. Otherwise, he was impeccable. So I think everybody wanted his renewal. The problem is that we didn't know this guy was suffering from chronic pain in his knee for the past few months. Now he comes out and it's not looking pretty. So there's reports that he could be back in December. I mean, this is not good enough for a team that is trying to compete. You're going to lose Evan Dika in January and February, so the guy is going to be
That's
gone for 6 weeks.
exactly where I was going with this, correct.
Like Marash Kumbula is dead and buried. Like he's probably trying to come back, but I mean, to what effect? Who knows? And also, like, what's his place in this team? Like, so not an easy. We could this Lecce Lecce right now is secondary. Obviously, the game is important, yes, but this recent wave of injuries and of situations that are related to these injuries are very very telling of the kind of decisions that Roma will have to make in the coming months, because these are some of these situations you can't just dismiss so easily.
Well, that is the big mystery, and I have said before, mentally, I cannot begin to think of the market before we enter December. We are still 1 month away from that, which is very difficult to believe that we're already this far into the season. As you said, Evan Ndika, you're going to lose him. Kumbula, as much as I love the guy and talk about another agent who will undoubtedly listen to this, his agent, another guy I do like a lot, no matter how many positive interviews he gives about how much support Roma has given to him, I just do not see.
I think I've published like 3 of those interviews just in the
Yeah,
last 2 months, and the guy
yeah,
is
yeah.
injured, by the way. Like the guy hasn't played, so
Yeah, he he asked if I wanted to do one, and I said, "Yeah, let's wait a couple of weeks. You just gave 4 within the last like 2 days. I doubt you're going to tell me anything new." In all seriousness, though, I You couldn't tell me what his role is going to be. I couldn't tell you. I'm sure he couldn't even tell you what his role is going to be. I know it seems like ancient history, but do you remember when he was available? I particularly remember the very first season of Kumbula under Jose Mourinho. Do you remember he was missing? Well, I mean, I thought he was
No,
kidnapped.
but even I think the whole trajectory becomes more evident even last season. Remember, he scores the second goal against Real Sociedad at home. Remember
Yes,
that? The
yes,
whole crowd goes crazy because that basically helps you secure a result. The very next match, the very next match, he does a disaster in the defeat to Sassuolo, where Sassuolo
yes,
humiliate you and he gets a red card. So, like,
correct.
that's the whole trajectory of Kumbula. It's this beautiful arc of this really promising defender, one of the best young defenders in Serie A, and I think it was the season 1920, yes, with Hellas Verona, Juric. Really, one of the best, and comes to the Roma, and this whole trajectory is up and down, up and down, up and down.
Yes,
So we have that situation. So to sum up, Evan Dika 6 weeks at AFCON. Evan Dika out of the picture for 6 weeks. Marash Kumbulla possibly out until also January. I mean, he seems to be playing now, training now with the ball individually. So that means he's probably in the next month and a half is going to go back to training with the team. Then we got Chris Smalling, who flies to London, cannot train with the team, is dealing with chronic pain, uh, out indefinitely, no clear timeline for return. Diego Llorente, who has shown signs of also suffering from physical issues. So now the only like real certified uh, defenders that you have at your disposal, that you're going to have at your disposal, is Diego Llorente and Gianluca Mancini, possibly Cristante as
I
a
was about to
momentary
say put him
temporary.
back, but I don't know. The thing is, too, and this is something that you mentioned 1, maybe 2 months ago, and I have been really confused as to why Jose Mourinho hasn't done it yet. He's still using. He is still using Paredes in that regista role. I don't understand it. I completely agree with you that he needs to be the mezzala, and you put Cristante in the middle. But if you move Cristante back to the defense, I think that opens up an entirely new host of issues because, well, A, you still are missing Pellegrini. Um, B, you beyond the depth of Pellegrini, Awar, if we want to even add Bove to the situation, Paredes in the midfield, and with Cristante, if you put him back in defense, we are looking at options. You went from having few options to almost no options. And the interesting thing too is I don't know about you, but I did not anticipate Bove to have such a large role so early in the season. I'm not saying it's bad one way or the other, but I think just the mere fact he's had to be relied upon so much so early is surprising to me. I won't say it's worrying because obviously you have a Roma player of the Primavera who is coming up.
Also, I mean, also he's shown you good things. It's not like he's been
Yes,
playing despite being bad. No, he has actually produced for for what the expectations were. He has produced, and now is supposedly closing in on a renewal.
that will be coming soon. I did an interview with his agent on the website a couple of months ago. He said they hadn't held talks yet, but they would soon. I'm not going to be even remotely worried about that. That will happen. But well, maybe you did, but I didn't anticipate him to have such a large role. I didn't. And I think just the fact that he has had a large role thus far leads you down the path of, okay, well, clearly something has gone wrong. The thing is with the injuries, man, I don't even know what to say because this is something we have talked about on here for years. And again, this is something that is, it bypasses managers. I'm not even going to talk about Trigoria, the playing surface. We're past that. This is, I don't know. something
Well,
in
but
the
but here at least, John, here at least we have the common denominator. 5 players, all of them have a
a
clear
history of
injury
this.
record. You know,
Yeah, so and that is the
it's
thing.
not a
If you
big
want,
mystery. Like at least
no,
we don't have to deal with the thought of, say, Brian Cristante also being added to that list.
think about that if that happened though, man. If you
God
want to
forbid.
talk about,
God forbid.
I mean, we used to we used to joke and give stick to the guy Cristante because he, even by his appearance, he is just a very bland individual in the way, even in the way he plays. It's bland. It's not flashy. With Cristante, well, I should say, except for that, was that rocket of a goal? That was Empoli, yeah, that one that he had.
Yes.
Okay. Beyond that goal, which I would argue is perhaps is one of the flashiest moments he's had at Roma, the guy does nothing that jumps off of the screen to you. But it is so, there's something to be said about the person that you know, both in football and out of football, that is just steady, consistent, doesn't jump off the screen, not too loud in either
He's like
appearance.
if Clay Thompson were Canadian. It's
I, in a way, it, it 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 makes sense that he's Canadian because he seems friendly, um, just very even keeled. This guy does not do anything that is boisterous. He's just a steady presence. Everybody needs somebody like that in your life. Not even necessarily in football, but
and he's
seriously,
been
like
any and to circle back, he's been available. He's been the only player
exactly
available
where I was
throughout
going with
all
this. Yeah,
these years. Like, if there is one thing you can rely on, is to find Brian Cristante's name in the starting 11, no matter who you play, when, what time of the year, what time of the day. If you're playing in Norway, if you're playing in Bulgaria, or if you're playing in Reggio Emilia, he's there.
and he's there in a position that you can't necessarily 100% guarantee that he's going to be in because he's so willing to play it. I mean, think about it. Paolo Fonseca, he plays central defender. Uh, under Di Francesco, he was what, the second leading scorer of Atalanta
Yeah,
the
I mean,
previous
yeah, but
season.
also with Di Francesco, who was playing all over. Like, Di
Well,
Francesco had
that's
no clue where
he's
to
playing
put himself.
mezzala. Ranieri comes, he's playing regista.
Yeah.
The guy plays all over. I mean, there is something to be said by the mere fact that this guy, I mean, he's willing to play anywhere and never complains. Doesn't
And
say
also every single
a
coach, like
thing.
even now Luciano Spalletti goes into the national team, and he still makes him like one of the pivotal players in his lineup. So there's a
Exactly.
pull to the Cristante, but for Roma, the main pull, it's not only his versatility. Most of all, it's his availability. You know, like,
100%.
why does somebody like Gianluca Mancini also earn his place in this team? It's not because of his quality. It's not because he was a wonderful defender to begin with, because not the opinion on him is split, but he's available. That's what Charles Bukowski, one of my favorite writers, a famous womanizer and a huge drunk. When an interviewer asked him, "What's your success with women? Like, how you are ugly, you are not very bright, although brilliant writer. You're not the cute type. You're just a really nasty old man. How do you pull it off with all these women?" And he said one thing: "I'm always available, always. She calls me in the morning, I'm there. She calls me in the middle of the night, I'm there. I'm available." And that's what it is. Availability makes you special. With Cristante, in a team that loses Paulo Dybala, that loses Chris Smalling, that Lorenzo Pellegrini, the team's main captain. I mean, he's been as inconsistent as possible when it comes to the fitness levels. He's been super inconsistent, and he's the captain. Roma need these players. Whatever you may think of them in terms of quality, if you can give me the minutes, if you can give me your availability, if you can't be the Charles Bukowski of the team, then I got no use for you. Like, you can be the best player in the world, but if you get injured every 90 minutes or so, then what's the use? And so we are in a situation that is very pressing, because this team, it's bad enough the squad is not up to the standards of, say, Inter or Milan, Napoli. Worse yet, you can never rely on a fully available team. You're always looking at having to play without three or four starters. What kind of, you know? I mean, it's like if the Warriors played the majority of the season without either Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, or without Draymond Green and Klay Thompson. There is no team without that. What's the use?
Right. I just, when it comes to this injury thing, there's no making sense of it. There's no reason for us to go into explanations or trying to pinpoint it. Um, but I think what you nailed on to, I mean, even Paulo Dybala, when it comes to Roma, yes, we're all excited, but of course it is with the
And last season he was efficient and effective. This season he has
correct,
been subpar. When he was available, he's been subpar. His only decent performance came against Empoli.
right, and in a way, some of these guys that we are getting, it's a difficult reality to accept, but Roma are getting them for a reason. Juve did not want to pay. I think they agreed originally 12 to 13 million euros to Paulo Dybala, and he couldn't find an alternative, and then they changed the terms of it, and he ends up at Roma. But that is with the full understanding that
But there is a risk involved.
there is a risk, and you have to accept the fact that you are going to be without him for at least 2 to 3 long stretches, 2 to 3 periods of long stretches without him available to you throughout the season. I mean, just look about it. Remember him before the final. We had to go into a
Yeah,
Europa League
Palomino.
final,
Yeah, Palomino.
right? With
Dybala hadn't played them for a month when he went to the
correct,
final. He
correct,
starts
and
the
the
final despite not having played
scores
over
the
in
goal in
Europe.
the final.
It's unbelievable. God,
Yeah, so
God,
in
they
a
broke.
way, as you correctly pointed out, Roma, we hate it, but in a way, we have to accept it. I mean, Renato Sanchez, just go look at that guy's injury history. Nothing is new for most of these guys. We have to accept it. But it's difficult to accept in the moment. It's difficult to come to terms with it and just say we
It's
should be
one thing
okay
when
with
you're
this.
talking about it in the summer,
Right.
and it's one another thing when you're talking about it when it's actually happening, and the team needs it. And obviously, again, these guys are here for a reason. Like even Romelu Lukaku, he's here because he drove himself into a position where no other team wanted him on those terms. So same with Paulo Dybala, same with Renato Sanchez. Again, there are situations where Roma, they have to flip the coin basically, and they have to do what Anton Chigurh does in No Country for Old Men.
I don't know where you're going with this.
Call it,
Where he goes up to the car and he asks the guy,
call
"Can
it.
you hold this very quickly?"
Yeah, can you can you look at
Okay.
me for a second? Yeah.
Okay. We've somehow almost made it to 35 minutes. We're
Don't
not even going
mention
to
it,
talk about
man. This is
Lecce, Roma. They should beat Lecce. Okay, great. Let's leave it
they
there.
should
We
beat
will.
Legend. Yeah, it's absolutely,
They should be.
that's the
There's nothing
analysis
to say.
right
There's
there.
nothing to say. Yeah, you have to beat Lecce. That's it.
You have to beat
Okay.
Legend. It's
Yeah, that's it. That's our pre-match analysis
ideally
of
you have to beat all the next three teams that you're facing.
yes,
So it's
100%. So we will chat with you after the match of this weekend. So until next time, ciao.
ciao.